I'm just enjoying some delicious coffee on this Sunday morning. Yes, that's right, I'm already getting off on the wrong foot because I'm basically full of lies. This is coffee, not tea. But we are going to be spilling some tea, discussing some tea, all about Authortube today. And I am Alexa Donne, a traditionally published author. This is my Authortube channel. And yeah, I wanna talk about our community. This is a response video to, I'm gonna put down my tea, I'm not gonna hold it the entire time. My coffee, I'm gonna put down my coffee, I'm not gonna hold it the entire time because transparency is actually one of the things we're gonna talk about. I don't lie to you about my beverage of choice. This is a response video to two videos that went up a week ago. Excellent videos, they were really good, I really enjoyed them. This isn't like a drama, like pot stirring thing, I'm not countering anything that they said. I actually agree wholeheartedly. And one video was by Shaelinwrites, her problems with the writing community, and the other one was by Jenna Streety, and it was how not to start an Authortube channel. And I'm going to link to both of those down below. They're really, really good videos. I enjoyed every single minute of both of them, and they really made me think. Because, you know, I of course have been very meta about the Authortube community because didn't I just like barrel right in here and like start this channel and I was like 3 times a week posting, it's gonna happen. I definitely, you know, kind of barreled into Authortube and like made things happen, and I'm making videos about how to start an Authortube. And so, you know, I've had meta thoughts about our community and kind of some of the emerging community norms of Authortube, but I've of course never put them in a video. And I think that now that Shaelin and Jenna are kind of starting a conversation, that it's worth having the conversation because they bring up some very good points. So there's lots of points I want to touch on that were in both of those videos, or in one or the other, or just made me think of other things that weren't covered in either video. And the first thing I just want to discuss a little is copycat content, like, and advice, where now kind of as there are more Authortube channels, and obviously we have kind of the trend-setting Authortube channels, the ones that were first and have like big videos, and we're all looking to them to figure out like, okay, how do I get people to watch my channel? And you know what? That tea, you know, that shade is completely true, and I'm guilty of it. I'm definitely guilty of it, just, you know, kind of regurgitating similar video ideas. I think it's a real catch-22 though, because the thing on YouTube, and it's why I've given this advice in my Authortube bootcamp series, is creating content and creating a channel is always going to be a mix of originality and copying things that have come before, meaning there's always going to be a formula to any community, you know, community norms essentially, in terms of the kind of content that people want to watch. But I think then the key is, and I did mention this in one of my Authortube videos, is to try to make it original, like give it a pinch of originality and kind of spin it as best you can to kind of fit your voice. And I definitely try to do that with my videos. I'm not always successful, and I'm sure all of you out there, if you have your own channels, are the same. You're like, oh, am I bringing something new to this topic? And I think the answer is you can't always bring something new to a topic. Certain topics are always going to be new to your audience. And so you have to walk a fine line between kind of what's new to your audience versus retreading what's already out there. You can't actually always trust that people are familiar with other Authortubers, other writing resources. So I kind of take the mentality that for a chunk of my audience, anything I say is actually brand new. And that's why I've tried to do more 101 content, because I started out doing a lot of 201 content because I was like, everyone knows this stuff. And the answer is they don't. So I don't really have a solution or an answer other than to try to be original as often as possible, and then sometimes you're just not going to be. But I thought that was a really salient point. That was from Jenna's video. She's completely right. We are definitely getting to a point as new channels come around, or even like channels like mine are trying to grow, where it does feel like, you know, you search for newbie writing mistakes and there's 8 million videos. I think that a person's personality and personal experience can bring something new to those videos, but that shade, that was accurate. And this brings me to another thing that came up in both videos that, oh boy, do I want to talk about, and that is the concept of giving advice that you don't follow in your own writing. So this is something that's also really hard to talk about because I definitely worry that I do this. I don't think I'm the worst culprit. You may notice there are certain craft topics that have never appeared on this channel because I feel like a hypocrite talking about those topics, and actually inspired by Jenna and Shaylin's videos, I filmed a video that you'll be seeing really soon that was common writing advice I can't wholeheartedly endorse because it would be hypocritical of me, because I was like, you know what, that's a way to talk about some of these topics, because you know what, it is true. I have definitely seen videos on YouTube, on Authortube, by people where they're spouting what is honestly just sound and very common craft writing advice, but I know they don't follow it. I've looked at their writing samples, and this is the catch-22, the double-edged sword of publishing your work on the internet, and giving advice about how to publish work on the internet, how to write, because the proof is in the pudding. Any one of your viewers can go look at your book and see whether they think you're full of shit. And I'm aware of this because I have a book out, and any one of you can, there's sample chapters, the entire first chapter is on Entertainment Weekly, and then, you know, there's the See Inside This Book feature on Amazon, which is how I look at people's writing, and you can do the same for me. And you can read it and go, I don't think this chick can write, what a crock of shit. And that is a valid opinion to have about anyone who's giving advice about writing on the internet. And of course I worry that that will happen, but I also accept that that will happen because not everyone is going to think that I'm any good, and that's just normal. But it's tough because I feel two ways about this. Not just because I give craft advice that I don't necessarily follow, though again, I try not to be a hypocrite. The thing is, a person can be really good at teaching writing, teaching craft, and not be the world's best writer. This is just a reality of teaching in general, and that's not throwing shade on teachers. Teachers are amazing. I am not one of those assholes who believes in that whole, those who can do, those who can't teach. I don't believe in that. I think it's bullshit. But I think that someone can be gifted at teaching, gifted at relaying concepts to another person, but not necessarily gifted at applying those concepts themselves, which I know sounds counterintuitive. However, this is the entire reason that editors exist and are good at their job. Most editors aren't writers. They don't write books, but they understand craft and they understand storytelling, and they're really good at telling writers what to do or to guide writers in what to do. And I don't think that to be a good editor, you have to be a good writer. And so therefore, do you have to be a good writer in order to give good advice, in order to relay good craft advice? That is the question. And I'm not gonna give you a definitive answer because as a viewer, I am equally annoyed when I see someone giving advice and then I'm like, but you can't write, so whatever. I see both sides of it. And of course, I just hope you guys think I'm not a shitty writer, but maybe you do, and that's okay. And maybe I'm still okay at explaining crafts. Maybe it's both. But that said, I do actually think that when it comes to Authortube, and to any situation where you're giving advice as a part of your platform, and that's what this is branding, and this is something that Shaelin talked about in her video that I thought was really interesting, and of her points, it's where I felt the most called out, and I say that with love, because I started this channel for platform, for branding, and I don't mean to say that in like a, you know, I'm not trying to hoodwink you and trick you into buying my book. If you're a regular watcher of this channel, you know I hate the hard sell. I try not to hard sell the fact that I have a book, and I don't expect any of you to buy it. But meaning, I love to give writing advice, I love to give industry advice, I love to steer people in the industry. It's why I run a mentorship program. Author Mentor Match, everyone. Submissions open now, depending on when you're watching this. But I also knew that starting a YouTube channel was a conscious choice because I started it after I sold my book. I knew that anything I put on my channel would be a part of my brand because I was now an author with a capital A. And the thing is, I do think when you are an author with a capital A, so you have a book coming out, so you're not just a really good teacher. And like I said, there are plenty of people who are just really good teachers, they're editors, etc. But when you are putting yourself out there as an authority, you should have bona fides. I do actually think that is important, and in fairness, a teacher has bona fides. They have certifications or degrees or what have you. They're certified in teaching and usually in the thing that they're teaching. So I do think it matters whether or not you know what you're talking about. And so I do wish and think in Authortube that viewers were a bit more circumspect about who they listen to, who they watch and who they listen to, because, you know, throwing out all sides of it here, I do actually think it matters that someone can string sentences together in a decent fashion, craft a good story, and has what it takes to publish and publish well. That doesn't just mean traditional publishing, it means self-publishing well as well. But I do think it matters, and I think that therefore it's incredibly valid that a viewer would say, well, are you applying your own craft advice? Can you write? What kind of authority are you on this topic? And that's why I try to only speak about things I actually know what I'm talking about. It's why I do disclaim all the time in my videos that my experiences are with traditional publishing, and so that's what I'm speaking to as an expert. Shaelin brought up the point of acting as an expert, that she doesn't see herself as an expert, and I actually think her writing advice is excellent, so I think you're pretty close to that expert level. But I do actually see myself as an expert about a lot of the things that I talk about. I wouldn't talk about them if I didn't feel that I had the authority to speak to those things. And I don't talk about things that I feel I don't have the authority to talk about. And I do think that in the Authortube community, in the writing community, this happens outside of Authortube as well, but like this is our space. Not everyone makes that choice and feels that way, and they do speak to things that they really have no right to speak to. They can give misinformation, they can mislead their viewers, and so we get into this weird space with the branding and the authority. And Shaelin brought up money, that once you're making money off of something that it really kind of taints it, and I would generally agree, though I think that there are definitely levels and differences in terms of like, I have started this channel for platform because my goal is to build a following and then hard sell them my book. I do think there's kind of a difference between that and like, I'm going to create this as a part of my platform, and if I sell books, great, but this is just something that I want to do so that I can engage more with the community and readers. And I mean, that's my take on this. That's why I'm here. I think that there are kind of nuances there and differences, but I see both sides. I see, you know, the question I think becomes, what can you trust? And we have to start asking those questions in our community. I think that, you know, every community reaches kind of that watershed moment, and I think we're there, or almost there, or approaching there, because now we have this critical mass of channels that have massive viewership, and everyone's got a book coming out. And we're seeing things translate, not just into sales, but we're also seeing people start side businesses and charge their followers, charge their viewers for information. And this is where I get a little bit uncomfortable, like not uniformly, but I think that you can abuse the trust that you build in your viewership. I'm just gonna take a sip of my coffee that is not tea. I spilled some on my shirt. I'm such a good adult. It's a Harry Potter shirt. I spill things on myself all the time, actually. It's like a problem I have. I think that this is something that's cropping up more and more in our community, and we're going to have to address it. We're going to have some conversations. And I understand the desire to earn money full-time off of this career, off of writing, off of being an author, etc. But I just get very uncomfortable when I see people use the platform that they've built off of the backs of just hope-filled aspiring writers who just have joy and hope in their heart, and then using that as a springboard to get money from them. I'm just personally uncomfortable with that, and I know that that is spilling tea, but it's a personal opinion. And on the flip, I don't actually, like I said, I understand why people do it. This includes even freelance editing kind of enters into that conversation, but I'm not gonna go into that because that's not specifically an Authortube thing. That's just a writing community thing, and I've hesitated to make a video about it because it's so sticky. But I think it's something that, I'm just gonna leave it here. We're gonna have to start talking about it. We're gonna have to start talking about what members of the community are doing with their power, with their platform. And this brings me to something else I really want to talk about, since we're just spilling tea. Let's see how this goes. Just talking about emerging community norms in the Authortube community, something that I've noticed that has been bothering me for a while, that I think is worth talking about, and only kind of came up like a smidgen in Jenna and Shaelin's videos, but I really want to talk about it because I think I'm in a unique position to talk about it. And something that I have observed that I find concerning is the stark divide between self-publishing and traditional publishing. I feel like sometimes it gets ugly. Now, of course, I started this channel to be a voice on YouTube and Authortube about traditional publishing, joining some of my fellow traditionally published authors such as Kim Chance and Bookish Pixie, aka Gabe, who already of course have great channels, but I wanted to speak specifically about my debut experience because I felt I had a lot to add, especially since I love to talk about things like money. I love transparency and I love talking about marketing. And yes, I have definitely made videos that are, in a sense, response videos to other things I've seen on Authortube, because I have just seen so much misinformation spread on Authortube, on YouTube, about what traditional publishing actually is, what it entails, why you should or shouldn't do it. And I do think that both publishing paths are valid for different kinds of people and different kinds of books. But I also feel that there's this overwhelming default mentality in this aspiring writer community, not only on YouTube, but I see this on Reddit a lot as well, that traditional publishing is garbage and that it's horrible and, you know, it's a waste of time and money and they're just evil gatekeepers and self-publishing is the best thing you could possibly do, and everyone always relies on outliers to make their case for self-publishing. And that's the thing, they're outliers. Most self-published books don't do well, especially in young adult fiction. Most self-published books don't do well. And the outliers, you always have to consider the extenuating circumstances. For example, if someone built their own platform, of course they're gonna sell a ton of books when and if they self-publish, especially if it's at a reasonable price point and you get a pretty good cover. Which also gets back into the whole piggybacking off your audience topic, but meaning these divides exist. And it's really interesting because, as I say, emerging community norms. I do feel that Authortube is approaching a watershed moment where we are dividing into cliques, which is very strange. And I also am seeing a division, you know, big channels versus small channels, which is really interesting to me. I mean, a lot of the big channels, and this is just some real talk about Authortube, a lot of the biggest channels are just big because they got there first. It's not because they're the best. It's not because they're offering, you know, the best advice or the best video quality or that they're like the most charismatic people. They just got there first, and that's just the rule of YouTube. It's true for BeautyTube, it's true for BookTube, it's just true. If you're coming in later, and I do encourage people to start channels, I think it's an interesting community. It is harder to grow. And, you know, I'm just gonna say, one of the reasons I've grown as fast as I have is because I do have connections as a traditionally published author, that I know that people arrived at my channel and saw, oh, she has a book coming out from a traditional publisher, great, I can trust her. And as we already discussed, you know, kind of that is a part of branding, like, what's the proof in the pudding for this person offering me advice? And so meaning, I fully admit that is an advantage I had that not every channel has. And I understand the frustration of smaller channels because it is so hard to grow. And my first 6-7 months on YouTube, I struggled to get to that 1,000 subscribers. And it's so cruel because once you hit like certain numbers on YouTube, growth becomes easier. And so you just have to struggle and struggle and struggle until you hit that moment, and it can take forever to kind of hit that moment. And things aren't fair and equitable, and also just sharing real talk with the small versus big divide. It's just luck, it's timing, it's knowing how to work the SEO kind of on YouTube, work the YouTube algorithm to your advantage, and it's imperfect. And even I'm frustrated that, you know, I'm doing very well, but I can throw up a video that I think has just like gold information about writing and publishing, and it does pretty well for my channel. But another channel, one of the older ones with tons of subscribers, throws up a video that is, I feel, is half as good, and it gets 8 times as many views in 24 hours. And that's just the reality of YouTube. And so I've noticed a divide. I've noticed cliques, I've noticed a divide between self-published and traditional published, and I've noticed the small versus large. And I do wish we would come together more as a community and talk more to each other. I think that's challenging because something like BookTube has a lot more avenues for that. Authortube doesn't, and I wish more of Authortube would go to bookish events like BookTube events. So I think that if we all talked to each other more and communicated more, everything would be better. But that's also tough, I'll fully admit. I just don't have time to do a ton with other channels. Like, having to coordinate other schedules around like all of my deadline schedules for my publisher is really, really hard. And I am flat out offering apologies to any of you who have asked me to collab, and there are a few of you, and I have had no time, and I know that makes me a bad person, and you probably think I'm an elitist snob, but no, I've just been so stressed, which is another point that came up in Jenna and Shaelin's videos that I thought was really good, and that was the veneer of positivity and perfection that permeates Authortube and how it's a problem. And I wouldn't disagree. I have contributed to this. I have definitely contributed to this. And that's just because when you're filming and when you're kind of creating a product, and if you are doing your Authortube as a brand, it is a product, it makes more sense to lead with positivity. And part of this also is that you don't want to spill too much tea or be too real, and that's kind of a rule of thumb on Twitter and on Instagram. But yeah, I think this is something that we do have a problem with, because the instinct is when you are on social media to present your best self and your best moments. And I agree with them that you see the final product, you see the veneer, and you don't necessarily see all of the ugly reality. And I'm not falling over myself to share all my ugly reality with you. I said in my revision video that I was turning in my book, and if my editor hated it, that I wasn't gonna tell you, and I meant that. Because there are certain things about publishing in the process that honestly should remain private. And generally, I'm a private person. Shock. No, I'm introverted. I like to keep a lot of my feelings to myself, and so there's just certain things I'm not gonna share with you because that doesn't come naturally to me. And I'd say it doesn't come naturally to a lot of us, but you know, maybe we can all be better at that, at having those moments in our channels where we are more transparent, where we say, it was really hard for me to film. I had to take a break because, you know, things weren't going well in my personal life. Or I can tell you how stressed I was this summer. I know I seemed to keep it together for videos and I kept the video schedule going. You know, I kind of dropped down to 2 times a week, but honestly, there were moments where I felt like I was gonna vibrate out of my skin because I was so stressed and so overwhelmed. And I'm still dealing with the ripples of that, including like friends that I didn't make time for. I barely talked to my own poor mother. Oh, writing. But this is all the stuff that I'm generally not gonna share with you, but maybe it's helpful for you to hear. The moments that I struggle, the moments that it's hard, where I feel like a failure or a disappointment. And actually that is kind of what the vlogs are for. The vlogs are more real, but I'd say, yeah, overall Authortube does kind of have this problem because we present the best face and it doesn't always demonstrate the realities of kind of what's going on and how hard writing is. So I'm gonna stop there because otherwise this video is gonna be 5 hours long. But yeah, I think it's really good that we're starting to have these conversations. I think these conversations are hard. And I don't, just like Shaelin and Jenna, I don't mean any of these points as a call out to specific people. Do I have specific people in mind? Of course I do. We all do when we talk about things, but it's not really one person. It's multiple people I see doing the various things that I've talked about, where I'm just concerned about some of the emerging community norms in Authortube. And I worry that I've contributed to some of them. I don't want to contribute to, you know, an unrealistic expectation of writing, and I certainly don't wish to contribute to any divisions in the community. But also, you know, this channel does exist to be as honest with you as possible about the publishing process and traditional publishing, and to share with you how vehemently I believe in traditional publishing and that it does work. But yeah, I do wish that Authortube had a wider breadth of experiences and opinions, and it wasn't kind of like a one side versus the other. And I wish that there weren't as many misconceptions being spread, because then I wouldn't have to get all worked up and make dramatic videos for you. Yeah, I think there's a lot going on. I think there's a lot to talk about. And I don't even necessarily have solutions, because I don't know if talking to each other is really going to help. Because ultimately, I do think the majority of people on Authortube, this is about branding and platform. You know, Shaelin didn't have a solution for it either. I don't have a solution. I think we can just be as real as we can possibly be with our viewership. Some of us more than others, and that is true. I think some people are more honest and transparent than others, and the best that you can do for yourself, if you have a channel, if you're a viewer and you're subscribing to people and watching, as a creator, make your choice of how honest and transparent you want to be. Don't lie to your viewers. Oh, I didn't even have time for that tea. I have seen people flat out lie on their Authortube channels. That does frost my cupcakes. A lot of the lies are about traditional publishing, and it just makes me mad. Or, you know, in an effort to make self-publishing seem as good as traditional publishing, I have seen some flat out lies that I could easily disprove. But the thing is, it shouldn't be this passive aggressive back and forth thing, and that's actually what I don't like. I don't like the passive aggressive back and forth thing. But at the same time, we don't really have avenues for having open conversations, so all we have is our channel and the ability to make videos. So yeah, I don't have answers or solutions. I just think this is really interesting to discuss. I think it's gonna be really interesting to watch our community as it grows and over the next like year or so, especially as more people have books coming out. It's interesting. And I also am curious to see who breaks through the formula. I don't know if it's necessarily gonna be me, but yeah, we probably do need a shakeup in terms of the content on Authortube. We need someone to like bust in and do something really weird and different. That would be fun, that would be interesting. I'm open to it, but at the same time, I'm always going to want to watch process videos and craft videos, and I love listicles. I love watching them on other people's channels, even if I've done the same topic. So that personally doesn't bother me because I think that different people bring different things to it. So I'm gonna stop talking like right now. So give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. I hope I haven't like exploded anything into a giant fireball. Let me know down below in the comments any thoughts that you have about this. I mean, you guys are all viewers of Authortube. What do you think? What do you want to see more of or less of in the community? I think it'd be interesting to jumpstart a conversation. If you're not already subscribed to the channel and this video actually makes you want to watch more of my videos, yay! I post new videos 2 to 3 times a week. As always guys, thank you so much for watching. Happy writing, and if you're a creator, happy YouTubing. Enjoy your tea or coffee or whatever.